Hey! Hi, how you doing? This is the Gamertron, and welcome back to the Gamertron Show. Now, call me hasty, but I think it's a fair assumption to make that you're not blind, and you've read the title of this video, so I feel like there isn't much need for sugarcoating or exposition before I tell you exactly how gaming YouTubers are screwing you over, myself included. But before I do, I need to make something perfectly clear, because I have a history of making videos that have unnecessarily negative blowback due to me apparently not being specific enough, causing viewers to insert their own implications into what I'm saying. So just before we get started, let me make one thing absolutely perfectly clear. I am not generalizing every single gaming YouTuber. That would be absolutely ridiculous. Gaming YouTubers, the overall gaming YouTube community, as it were, is not a collective. It is not a hive mind. It is a group of individuals, varying, different individuals. Thousands, hundreds of thousands of different individuals with different opinions and perspectives. The YouTubers I am talking about here, the gaming YouTubers that are screwing you over, are a specific group or groups of individuals. Not every single gaming YouTuber does or is what I'm about to talk about. Okay, are we good? Are we clear? Was that specific enough? Well, I hope it was, because enough wasting time. Let's get into this. So from my point of view, there are three crucial points of issue when it comes to how certain gaming YouTubers are screwing over their viewers and the gaming community as a whole. This also includes me, however. And I want to be clear here, these points of issue have nothing to do with if the YouTubers, if the individuals, the people themselves are being malicious or deceitful, or just some negative connotation in general. Because these issues, these problems aren't black and white. None of that good versus evil, right versus wrong absolutes bullshit. There are variations on these problems, and they take on different forms depending on the different individuals, the different YouTubers in question. For example, the first way gaming YouTubers are screwing you over is that they don't admit and/or they don't acknowledge their biases. I am guilty of this. Now, one of the wonderful things about video games is their variety, their diversity. There's a huge plethora of different genres, different types of games for you to experience. But not every type of video game, not every genre is going to connect to everybody. Not every video game is going to be your cup of tea. There are going to be certain types of video games that you love to play and others you avoid like the plague. Allow me to admit some personal biases right now. I really enjoy and prefer shooter and hack and slash action video games. I have a positive bias to those types of games. Whereas with dating sims, top-down turn-based RPGs, and puzzle-focused video games, I have a negative bias towards those types of games. I personally don't find those video games enjoyable. And our own personal biases are important information, especially when concerning video game reviews, and when concerning our outlook on the video game industry and video game news in general. And gaming YouTubers are screwing you over by not admitting their biases, and not letting you know their preferences and their dislikes. Perfect example of this, and we saw this ad nauseum with the release of the video game Cuphead. As a large variety of video game journalists, video game reviewers, and video game YouTubers negatively reviewed the game because they had biases towards difficult video games. Video games were the base difficulty is, well, genuinely difficult. And these individuals, these video game journalists, these video game reviewers, these gaming YouTubers, instead of admitting and acknowledging and letting their audience and their viewers know about their biases towards difficulty in video games, they instead generated an impression that the video game Cuphead was a lesser video game, a video game of lesser quality, less enjoyable because of its difficulty. And if you followed the whole Cuphead difficulty controversy, you know this led to a lot of backlash. And the backlash wouldn't have nearly been as bad if the individuals reviewing Cuphead negatively were honest and open about the kinds of video games they prefer and what difficulties they like to play their video games on. But I bring up the whole Cuphead difficulty controversy because it's very general, very well known, helps giving me and you a jumping off point so that we can get into something a bit more specific. I want to introduce you to a smaller, bit more of a fringe YouTuber called Horse60.
What's going on, gamers? How you doing? Horse60 here, coming to you live.
Now, Horse60 is a YouTuber that's really into military shooter video games and sports video games. And you don't just need to take my word for it, he says it himself.
Military first-person shooters are my thing. I grew up with Ghost Recon and fucking Rainbow Six. I grew up playing fucking games like Contra and fucking General Chaos and Herzog Zwei. Military first-person shooters are my fucking genre. That's what I like. It's like my music.
Now, Horse60, in a sense, admits his biases, that he only plays military shooter and sports video games, and he doesn't try other video games and other genres.
You've got people out there doing Gary's Mod. I don't play Gary's Mod. Plus, I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy watching it. I don't want to fucking watch it. Friday the 13th? Why would I fucking play a horror game? I'm not into horror games. I'm not going to fucking play Telltale's Walking Dead. I'm not going to play fucking Alien Isolation. It's not my thing. I don't play real-time strategy games because I find they're a fucking waste of my fucking time. I don't play role-based strategy games and fucking timed event games because it's a waste of my fucking time. I'm not going to play Batman Arkham Knights. It's not my fucking genre.
However, despite admitting that, he then goes to make the claim and assure that it is factual and it is objective that...
Folks, I just want to tell you right now that where gaming is as a whole just basically fucking sucks right now.
So, Horse60, despite admitting that he only plays video games in two genres, he doesn't play RPGs, doesn't play strategy games, doesn't play fantasy or sci-fi games outside of Titanfall, doesn't play platformers, doesn't play more story-based, point-and-click adventure games, he sticks to two genres of games, doesn't leave those genres, doesn't leave those types of games, doesn't try out other games, and yet goes to make the claim that the entirety of the video game industry sucks. Everything. It all sucks. The state of the game industry sucks because video game developers aren't appealing to him and his niche preferences. From my perspective, from what I can tell, Horse60 admits he has bias in what video games he plays, but doesn't stop to think or acknowledge that this may be coloring his view of the video game industry to a very limited perspective. I mean, how can you say the entirety of the video game industry sucks when you limit yourself to very specific video games and then complain that the video game industry is not tailoring specifically towards you? Now, I'm not saying that Horse60 can't have that perspective, that he can't have that opinion. He can, but it's important to acknowledge, it's important to admit that our perspectives are not entirely objective-based. For instance, allow me to admit something here and now. I have an extremely positive bias towards video games. The vast majority of video games I've played, even video games that I can admit are objectively bad video games, I still enjoy, I still like. It's important that when reviewing a video game, when sharing information, that you admit, that you acknowledge, that you share your personal biases and how they affect your perspective and opinions on different products, art, subjects, and situations. If you don't relate to the viewer, if you don't relate to your audience that you are sharing your opinion and you have this opinion based on this, this, and this, you don't need to write an entire novel explaining why, just some quick bullet points to let the viewer, to let the audience know what they're getting into, where you're coming from, because if you don't relay this important personal information, it is up to the viewer, up to the audience to make assumptions, and one fair assumption, you can't blame them for making this assumption, is that you're being objective. That when you say this video game is good, or this video game is bad, that this video game sucks, or that this video game is awesome, that you are saying that this is that way because it is fact. Because that is the way it is in reality. This video game is a bad video game because it's a bad video game. Not that I'm saying it's a bad video game because I personally dislike it. There are things about it that I personally don't like, that rub me the wrong way, that don't have me enjoying this product. Therefore, I find it to not be a good product. I have to admit, and be honest with you, skepticism in a healthy moderation is a beautiful thing. Not being a sheep and believing everything you're told 100% of the time, you can go a long way in life. Now, what am I talking about here? This seems pretty random and out of nowhere, right? Well, you see, little over half a decade ago, I was one of those people that 100% 98% trusted video game reviews on the internet? I learned the hard way, don't trust the fucking internet. Back when Grand Theft Auto 5 first came out, and it was getting praise from every direction, everybody loved the game, I was initially trusting of the reviews that this was a fantastic game that you needed to play. The genre and the setting didn't interest me whatsoever, but everybody kept saying, oh, this is such a good game, you have to play it. And I was going to drop money on the game. I was going to buy it. Everyone was saying, oh, it's so great, you have to play it. Well, I might as well spend money on it, might as well buy it. Thank goodness, I played the game beforehand at a friend's house and discovered for myself the game was not for me. What I played of Grand Theft Auto 5, I did not enjoy whatsoever. And it confused the hell out of me, because all the reviews kept saying, oh, this is such a great game, you have to play it. I finally played it, and I'm like, where is this great game? Now, I can admit my biases. I can admit I personally don't enjoy GTA 5. I don't find it enjoyable. The game is not for me, but I can also admit, objectively, it's a well-made game. I may not like it, but it's still a good game. Following up this personal example with another one. Back when the original Watch Dogs came out and YouTubers started talking about the game, reviewing the game, there was a decent portion of reviewers saying that Watch Dogs sucked, that was a terrible video game. And after seeing gameplay of the game for myself, I couldn't help but scratch my head in confusion. Now, like GTA 5, I wasn't interested in the premise or setting, but I wanted to play Watch Dogs for myself to see if this video game really is as bad as everyone is saying it is. So I buy Watch Dogs, I play Watch Dogs, I end up loving Watch Dogs. So yeah, I don't like GTA 5, but I like Watch Dogs. The gameplay mechanics in one game appeal to me more than the other. Now, is Watch Dogs a fantastic, flawless video game? No, it has some flaws, but Grand Theft Auto 5 also wasn't this perfect, flawless video game that everyone was boasting it to be. Different video games appeal to different people, and right now, there's a lot of YouTubers pushing their biases, pushing their personal opinion as fact, and a lot of genuinely, objectively, really well-made video games are getting overlooked or dismissed because gaming YouTubers aren't admitting their biases. And this is something I am absolutely guilty of and I need to watch out for in the future. Gaming YouTubers, myself included, are inadvertently spreading misinformation because we can't acknowledge or admit we have personal preferences that color our perspectives and opinions. But if I'm being honest here, out of the free talking points, out of the free major issues in how gaming YouTubers are screwing you over, this is the least important one. Because while there are still some gaming YouTubers that don't admit their biases, a lot of other YouTubers are going out of their way to let you know this is my opinion. And there is a certain responsibility to the viewer, to the audience, to realize when someone is reviewing a video game or recommending a video game, they're reviewing it from their perspective and their personal experience with that said video game, and it's going to vary from person to person. So, while this is a problem, this is an easily solvable problem. Many YouTubers right now are going out of their way to address and solve the problem, and viewers, the audience themselves, can easily solve the problem too, with a bit of an open mind and being willing to do a bit more research to find out whether a video game is right for you. But these next two talking points, these next two ways that gaming YouTubers are screwing you over, myself included, we, the gaming YouTubers, need to take responsibility and make an effort to do better when it comes to this. So, the second way gaming YouTubers are screwing you over is actively ignoring the positive side of the video games industry. If you were to solely take the word of certain gaming YouTubers without doing any research yourself, you'd have the impression that the video game industry is this hellscape, that there are almost no good video games, that they are a rare breed, and that only broken, buggy, unfinished video games that are littered with microtransactions are the only things available on the market. You'd believe that single-player video games are dead, that storytelling in video games is dead, and all this other, what is quite frankly, nonsense. I'm not saying the video game industry is a paradise. Dear God, no way. It of course has its issues, but there's a great deal of gaming YouTubers who are simply obsessed with the issues of the industry and refuse to acknowledge or inform their audiences, their viewers, of the positives, of the genuinely good news, good things that happen in the video game industry. It's especially disappointing when it comes to YouTubers who have a very large fan base, a very loyal fan base, and then the YouTubers take advantage of that in the worst way possible, feeding into the cynicism, feeding into the hyperbole of the drama and the disappointing things that happen in the video games industry. Now, of course, we need to report and we need to record the crap that goes on in the video game industry, but there needs to be a balance of the negative and the positive, because when you just feed into one and ignore the other, you start to create a false impression of the media, of the topic, of the products you are speaking on. In this case, the video game industry. Now let's look at some YouTubers, for example. We'll start with one of the biggest and most well-known, Yong Ye. Apologies if I'm pronouncing his name incorrectly. Yong has a very successful YouTube channel and a very loyal fan base. Kind of almost disturbingly so. I mean, honestly, his viewers in his comment section suck his dick so hard, you'd swear they were all auditioning to be porn stars. Anyway, Yong has a very successful YouTube channel, gets a lot of views, and while his channel banner says news, reviews, and discussions, he doesn't seem to do reviews and discussions anymore, only gaming news. And from what I'm seeing, almost a year now, specifically, almost exclusively, negative news concerning the video game industry. Now, I usually wouldn't give a damn how another YouTuber handles their YouTube channel. It's their YouTube channel, of course. But when the YouTuber in question, Yong Ye, consistently complains about how the video game industry sucks, and then makes zero effort to utilize his viewer base, to utilize his YouTube channel, to utilize his videos to spread and promote good video games with good business practices made by good developers. Yong consistently with his videos gives the impression that the video game industry sucks. He even says in several videos the video game industry is not in a place he likes and that he's worried for the future, yet actively does nothing about it. Yong has the potential and the capability with his loyal and large viewer base to easily sell hundreds of copies of genuinely good video games with good business practices that positively affect the video game industry. If you want more specific examples, Yong will make almost 20, count 'em, 20 separate videos on EA and the Star Wars Battlefront 2 controversy. Almost 20 videos. 10 of those videos he made in a row. But he won't make a single video to promote video games like Nier Automata, Hellblade, Titanfall 2, Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, Prey, Absolver, Resident Evil 7, Little Nightmares, The Evil Within 2, Echo, Ruiner, Cuphead, and so many more. I can keep going on and on and on about all the genuinely really good video games with good business practices that came out this year, last year, and I can keep going on and on. If you only got your gaming news from Yong Ye, you'd think the video game industry is just the worst. And his audience does! You read the comment sections of his videos, and it's nothing but desperate users virtue signaling and like whoring to get top comment. Yong Ye could do so much good with his YouTube channel. He could help out so many video game developers, both in the indie space and the genuinely good and honest ones in the AAA space. His videos daily get tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of views. Imagine how many copies of Nier Automata or Hellblade Yong Ye could sell to his audience who are desperate and disillusioned to play good video games if he just made videos about them. I mean, there's so much good, positive gaming news out there, I'm shocked he doesn't cover it. He actively ignores the positive news when he could be using this as an opportunity to do what he claims in his videos he wants, for the video game industry to head in a positive direction. You do that by supporting the positive instances in the industry and sharing the information on these positive instances. There's nothing wrong with reporting the negative crap that goes on in the video game industry, but like I said earlier, there needs to be a balance. And right now, from my perspective, YouTuber Yong Ye and his video content is not balanced in the slightest. It leans way too far into the negative. Again, Yong Ye will make almost 20 videos on the EA Star Wars Battlefront controversy, but won't make a single video on how Wolfenstein 2 now has a free playable demo. You can play the entire first level of the game for free. Demos are so exceedingly rare nowadays that seeing Bethesda and Machine Games doing something awesome like this is definitely newsworthy. Or what about how Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is nominated for 5 awards at the Game Awards? This indie AAA game that came out of nowhere from Ninja Theory is nominated for 5 awards at the Game Awards. No other game at the Game Awards has that many nominations. That's crazy, totally newsworthy. Or what about the totally free DLC update add-on to Total War Warhammer 2, Immortal Empires? Or what about Absolver's free content updates? Or what about how Neo got released on PC? Or what about, I could keep going on and on and on about all the awesome, positive news that happens in the video games industry, but YouTubers like Yong Ye actively ignore and don't make videos on, but make almost 20 videos on the Star Wars Battlefront 2 controversy. I'm just disappointed is all, cause Yong Ye could do so much good for this industry he claims to love. But love is a two-way street. you gotta show some to get some in return. And this is the problem right now with a lot of gaming YouTubers, where they are actively ignoring the positive news going on in the games industry, but will make video after video of the negative news that happens in the industry. To give some more examples, Sid Alpha has a fairly sized viewership. His audience genuinely appreciates him. And like Young Ye, Sid Alpha shares his woes with the video game industry, but makes very few videos about the positive news going on in the gaming industry. And then we come to a YouTuber which is a major disappointment of mine, because he has such potential. Darkside Royalty Lore. If you follow or are a fan of Destiny, you've probably heard of him. Joker, as he's nicknamed, tears into and criticizes Destiny and Destiny 2 consistently, hoping to create positive change and see Destiny go the direction he would like to go in. But the developers are obviously not watching his videos, as they keep making decisions and going into directions that he does not like. He has made it very clear that Destiny 2 is not the game he wanted it to be. And Darkside Royalty Lore, Joker, has a very loyal, very enthusiastic fan base. His viewers love him, and he could easily sell several copies of the genuinely good games that he loves by just promoting them with some videos. Perfect example here. Here, on one of his Destiny 2 videos, one commenter points out how Hellblade is his game of the year. Joker replies saying he also loves Hellblade. So I reply with, well, why don't you make a video on it? Never got an answer. And this one, it's such a personal disappointment and shame to me, because Joker, in my opinion, is a genuinely really good YouTuber. He makes genuinely good videos, entertaining videos, and I would love to see him take his passion for Destiny that he has in his videos and apply it to new videos about the games he's just as passionate about. That's what I don't get about so many gaming YouTubers. They'll make videos about all the crap in the video game industry, all the games they don't like. They'll make videos on that. They'll endorse the negativity, but they won't endorse some positivity. They won't endorse the video games and the video game developers and the business practices that will positively affect the video game industry. There's nothing wrong with pointing out when something's wrong, but you also have to provide examples of what you believe to be right. Okay, we get it, you dislike this. So what do you like? We have to provide examples to the video game developers of the world, the video game publishers of the world. We have to provide examples to the video game industry as a whole as to what we want to see. You can condemn the negative all you like, but you also have to provide some advocacy for the positive. And that is one of the biggest ways gaming YouTubers are screwing you over, because they are actively not informing you of all the good shit that's going on in the games industry. How many of you have even heard of Hellblade, or Absolver, or Ruiner, or Echo? These games that, despite being indie games, look and feel like AAA experiences, innovating in their genres as well as paying homage to games of the past. And let's not forget about the AAA video games that aren't cynical cash grabs. I know you've heard of Call of Duty Infinite Warfare and Call of Duty World War II, but have you heard of Titanfall 2? I know you've heard of Battlefield and Battlefront, but have you heard about Rainbow Six Siege? I know you've heard of Destiny 2, but have you heard of Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus? Do you know about Prey, Nier Automata, The Evil Within 2? I mean, Warframe. You've heard of Warframe, right? One of the best free-to-play games ever? What? No? What's wrong with you? This is what happens when you only get your gaming news from these gaming YouTubers. Like I said, they're screwing you over. I don't believe it to be malicious whatsoever, but it is, however, a disappointing missed opportunity to help create the positive change that these gaming YouTubers keep crying out for. But there's one more problem, one more issue, one more way gaming YouTubers are screwing you over, and it's linked to this issue we just talked about as well. They never forgive, but they sure as hell forget. Now, what am I talking about here? I'm talking about video games like Evolve, Battleborn, The Division, For Honor, Mass Effect Andromeda. Now, what do all these games have in common? Drama, controversy, technical issues, bad launches. All of these games launched in poor states that significantly hampered the experience in some way. You know what all these games also have in common? They all became significantly better, fixed, resolved, and redeemed themselves from their issues. Yet the YouTubers that talk shit about them and told people not to buy these games never come back to them or acknowledge the fixes, the changes, the improvements, so on and so forth. And in the end, the average viewer, the average consumer, misses out on a pretty great game. I'm sure you've heard about all the problems of these games, but have you heard about the changes, the fixes, and the improvements? I'm sure you've heard the complaints about Evolve, that it was a running simulator and there were a ton of microtransactions. But did you know that the developers added a game mode that skips out the running bit and just puts you straight into the fights? And that they also completely removed the microtransaction store and gave away all the cosmetic skins for free? As well as making the game free to play on PC? What's that? You didn't know about that? Well, that's such a shame that not more people reported on that, eh? Did you know Battleborn's multiplayer went free to play? That's right, this AAA video game lets you play its multiplayer for completely free. That's pretty awesome, right? Shame not more people told you about it. You know how The Division and For Honor had pretty buggy launches? A lot of technical issues at launch? Yeah, those have been patched out. They're much better games than ever before. They have a ton of brand new content added into them. Some of it paid, but most of it for free. And you're getting more than your money's worth if you buy them now. They're pretty good games, with single player, PvE, and PvP multiplayer components. Oh, and they're still having free content added to them monthly, and in For Honor's case, weekly. Oh yeah, and Mass Effect Andromeda, with all of its technical issues and horrible facial animations, those were patched out. Those have been fixed. And yet YouTubers are still spreading what's basically fake news about the game, that it hasn't improved from launch whatsoever, while also ignoring the free content updates to multiplayer, including new maps, new characters, and weapons, all for free. All these games I've mentioned have had rocky starts. They launched in unacceptable conditions. They were torn into, deservedly so, by gaming YouTubers. But then, when the developers go out of their way to redeem themselves, actively listen to the community, add free content, improve almost every aspect of the game, optimization and technical issues, gameplay and balancing, quality of life, all that jazz, then you don't hear a peep from the gaming YouTubers. Like I said, this issue ties in with the previous issue. Many gaming YouTubers will report on and focus on the negatives. Focus on the shit that went wrong, but not when it goes right. And then you, the consumer, the viewer, you end up missing out on an awesome game, or have negative impressions and false information on a game based on news that is months old. Should there be consequences for launching a broken, unfinished game at launch? Absolutely. But there also has to be rewards for when the right thing is done. Evolve, Battleborn, The Division, For Honor, Mass Effect Andromeda, these are not the same games that they were at launch. They are much better games now. And from my perspective, the developers should be rewarded and acknowledged for redeeming themselves. Yes, punish the negative behavior, but reward the good behavior. If you don't reward the good behavior, then you don't provide incentives to continue the good behavior. I'm not saying gaming YouTubers have some sort of responsibility. I, however, would like to see more gaming content creators, more gaming YouTubers practice what they preach. And there's more examples besides these games. A more recent example, Middle-earth: Shadow of War. Yes, the loot box microtransactions are garbage, they deserved controversy, they deserved negative press. But almost no gaming YouTubers are acknowledging the massive free content update that happened recently, adding a ton of more content and replayability. Yet I see almost no gaming YouTubers bringing up this free content update to Middle-earth: Shadow of War. I'll say it before, and I'll say it again. Balance. There needs to be a balance of the negative and the positive. Yes, negatively report on and punish games for negative practices, but it is in vain if the positive practices and the acts of redemption are also not rewarded. And this is the final, disappointing, and depressing way gaming YouTubers are screwing you over. They're reporting about the problems of certain video games, but then don't acknowledge the positive changes or the acts of redemption on the side of the developers. Then seem to act and pretend like they never happened. It's a shame to use him as an example, but look at Angry Joe. He never updates his reviews. Millions of people watch his videos and go to him for game reviews and information on video games, yet he adds no disclaimers and no annotations in his video reviews when his issues, when his problems with a game are fixed. After a while, his reviews unfortunately become outdated and also unfortunately become misinformation and fake news about certain video games. And it's just a damn shame. Now thank you if you've made it to this point in the video. I appreciate you hearing me out. The point of this video is not to slander, not to throw shade at other YouTubers. I honestly want this video to have a positive effect on those watching it. I hope with my opinion and my perspective that I've shared in this video, with the information I've shared in this video, that you are more self-aware to research video games, to research the video game industry yourself, to help promote positive change in the video game industry. There's already so much negativity when it comes to gaming YouTubers and the gaming community as a whole. And I hate that I've contributed to that negative attitude. I've tried to be better, to do better, and help positively affect the community and the video games industry, and I'm gonna keep trying. Because right now, from my perspective, there is this false narrative of doom and gloom surrounding the video games industry. Because so many gamers, so many viewers are just uninformed. Because gaming YouTubers won't admit or acknowledge their biases, because they won't talk about the positive things going on in the gaming industry and solely focus on the negative. And finally, because they won't acknowledge that a video game they looked at negatively has positively changed. I'm guilty of all these things, and I've been trying to do better, and I encourage my fellow gaming YouTubers out there, we can do better. Video games are a beautiful, wonderful thing that are supposed to bring joy to our lives, and we're turning it into something else, something ugly and fake. We have to stop indulging this false narrative that video games are all doom and gloom. We can do better. We can be better. We claim to love this hobby. We claim to love video games, so let's show that love. Let's admit we're not all perfect. We're not all right. And everything isn't so black and white. Seriously, thank you for sticking through and watching this video to the end. You are a trooper. You are awesome. I truly appreciate it. For my usual watchers, you guys know the deal. This has been a video. Please leave a comment in the comment section down below. If you like the video in any way, shape, or form, please be sure to hit the like button. Please share the video on social media, Twitter and Facebook, and if you want to help out and support me directly, well, there's always Patreon. Anyways, guys, this has been a video. I'll see you all later.